In the next 8 minutes, you will learn something about EU5. And if you don't, I'll commit the worst punishment possible. One that might even be against the Geneva Convention. Eating a bounty. I can't let that happen. So let's crack on. We haven't got much time. Also, I'm recording this off the back end of the super flu that's going around the UK at the moment. So if you fancy repaying the favour and subscribing, that'd be much appreciated. We are number one. Being over your diplomatic capacity is terrible. But did you know that how much you're investing in your diplomatic capacity directly affects this? And by just investing more, you can make it go away. Also, how much diplomatic capacity your vassals take up is mostly due to your relative power, which is determined by your tax base, whereas for alliances, it's mostly your relative population. Next, did you know that harbour capacity can go beyond 100%? As you can see here, we've got 120% harbour capacity in Constantinople, which gives us beyond the 100% amount of buffs. As you can see, reducing our trade embark and disembark cost by 60%, whereas if you only had 100%, it would be 50. Stack these buffs as high as you can, they're really strong. On to warfare. Did you know that you can recruit some troops at a discount? It's probably not intended by Paradox, but if you make a lower tier special unit, like a Varangian Guard, we then are given the option to upgrade it to our more powerful and bigger Akratai regiment, at the cost of only about 11 ducats, and it only costs 34 to make the Varangians, but it will cost us 68 to make an Akratai from scratch, meaning we're getting a sizable discount, and this adds up throughout the campaign. Additionally, you'll often have the option to join a foreign order of chivalry in your campaigns. This comes with some very good buffs, such as army morale, monthly prestige, military ability, or diplomatic reputation, depending on which one you choose. But it comes with a hidden modifier, that you can't marry anyone if you're not married already, and you can't have any more kids if you are currently married. And there's no way to revoke this modifier. It lasts until your death. So hand it out very sparingly and in select circumstances. Pivoting onto navies for a second, did you know that an easy way to boost your maritime presence is by just chucking your navy out into the sea, especially if you've got a big one, because it applies a pressure onto your sea zone and its neighbouring regions just for being there, hunting pirates at the same time too. What's not to like? Also, did you know that by just having your army in a province, you buff your control there? Exactly the same you would, buffing maritime presence with a navy. And whilst we're talking about militaries, boy, have I got a treat for you. Have you ever had your army locked off by zone of control, trapped on a fort that it can't possibly take, and it's stuck there until it dies? Well, in EU5, there's a cheeky little mechanic called full retreat, which means that you can pull your army out of any province by just clicking a button, and it is guaranteed to run back to your core lands. And this is highly abusable, not only in single player, but also in multiplayer. Think you're about to lose a battle, or get stack wiped? Just press the button. Sure, you lose 10% of your troops, but that's a lot better than 100%. And the war score from battles that accompanies losing them. On to crown power, that's really important to build up in your games. Did you know that by just putting them in command of an army or a navy, gives you a plus 25% buff to your crown power? Depending on which one you choose, it will also progress you towards land or naval, allowing you to increase control over your provinces, depending on what you need as a nation. So if you've got an admiral, that will push you further into naval. And there's a similar crown power buff by just having members of your family, and more importantly, crown estate, in your cabinet. And you can take this to crazy levels. If you make one of these your head of your cabinet, costing you a little bit of money and some legitimacy, but giving you a gigantic buff to your cabinet efficiency of that member. But more importantly, a humongous 25% crown power and 0.02 monthly legitimacy, or whatever value that your country uses, until that member leaves your cabinet. Talking about your estates, did you know that high levels of estate satisfaction gives you some good buffs? The most important one would be monthly research progress for your clergy, but they all add up, and they go the other way too. If they're not very happy with you, you'll get some debuffs. And there are some important thresholds to note. If an estate goes below 50% satisfaction, their pops will start joining rebels. If they go below 25% satisfaction, you can't raise their levies at all. So for example, if you annoy your peasants too much, you can quickly find that you've only got about 50 people available to you. And if you get to 1% satisfaction, or even lower, your estates just refuse to pay any tax at all. So yet another reason to automatically do your taxes and not let the AI slop take over and doing it for you. Moving on to core provinces, did you know that cores in EU5 are just as important as in EU4? You can see your cores on other people's provinces, whether you start with them in the game, like Byzantium, or they've taken land off you, in the military tab of the province and down here. You can retake this in peace deals really cheap, often 1 war score, and you don't need to integrate it when you retake it. You can see this on a map mode through the diplomacy map mode. You see those hashed lines? That's where you got cores on provinces that you haven't taken yet. And you can abuse this by vassalizing people who used to own a vast amount of territory and using them to retake that territory really cheaply and efficiently. And this applies to releasing subjects too. For example, if we release them, they'd get a lot of the land that we've taken from them, but they'd also keep their cores over a lot of central Anatolia that they lost to the Erythraeans. You can take advantage of this. Keep an eye on it. Next is a left field approach into the new world. Did you know that recruiting the explorer is incredibly valuable? Don't get me wrong, I know it's expensive, but they more than double the progression of your colonies. Just being an explorer, rather than a random courtier in your country, gives a plus 0.5 monthly progress to the expedition. And it's even worth it if you get the awful trait that is Treasure Hunter, the worst one that you can get, which reduces your monthly progress by 0.2. Every second matters when you're in a race for the new world, especially in MP. So here's a direct comparison. Our shitty explorer with the Treasure Hunter trait and just some random guy that gets some decent buffs, but it's nothing in comparison to even the worst explorer. Pivoting onto economics for a second, production efficiency is a huge value to get the most out of your economy. When you're building buildings, you shouldn't just check which one gives you the most money, as oftentimes it can lie and lead you into a big black hole. One of the most effective things that you can do is to build your economy about the RGOs you have, because they boost your productive efficiency. As you can see, we get a huge 10% efficiency buff in Constantinople because we have a silk RGO. This isn't limited to the city itself, by the way. This is done on a province basis. So if we had silk in this province here, well, more accurately, we have wheat. So if we made a brewery in Constantinople, we get a 10% buff. And you also get a huge amount of efficiency by stacking high levels of buildings on top of each other. So rather than making sparse amounts of buildings around your country, you should centralise them into high control cities around your capital. Which means it's really important to plan your cities, especially around the RGOs in those provinces, because these are some huge buffs that you can tack into your economy. So because of these buffs, we're producing 16.14 fine cloth rather than 12.6. That's a huge amount. Also, have you ever wanted to speed up your sieges? Well, you can do this quite easily by just building a spy network. Even for just a 1% spy network, we get a 0.26 increase in occupation progress. So at max stacks, that's 25%. This applies for all provinces, so big forts and tiny little provincial capitals that you're taking. And I believe that's time. I sincerely hope that you've learned something from this video, because I don't want to be eating any of those bounties. Look, we've all got that box on the table over Christmas that everyone's just funneled all the bounties into and no one's eating. I don't want to open it up. But I'm a man of my word, so please let me know in the comments. Did you learn something from this video? And do I need to hold up my end of the bargain? Albeit, I guess. Even those who say they haven't learnt anything, you have at minimum learnt a new channel to come back to. There's a silver lining in everything. If you're interested in learning more about EU5, here's an earlier video I did on 5 underrated actions that you need to be using in your games. Trust me, it's worth it and you'll learn something in there. Have a great day.